Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on this edition of India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan, and thanks to all of our viewers who are joining us on YouTube, and of course those of you who join us on TV night after night. The top stories that we are tracking for you tonight. SIP inflows into mutual funds hit a record high of more than 15,000 crore rupees for the month of July. The Sensex and the Nifty end the day in the green after a dramatic last-hour recovery, with the Nifty reclaiming 19,600. China's economy falls into deflation as both consumer and producer prices decline for the first time since early 2021. The US is all set to ban private equity and venture capital investments in some Chinese tech companies, escalating tensions between both nations. Top global laptop and tablet makers like Apple, HP and Dell asked the government to put off the newly announced import restrictions by 9 to 12 months. Sources say company executives met government officials seeking an extension. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi criticizes the government's handling of the Manipur issue during the no-confidence motion debate, accuses the government of splitting the state into two. Home Minister Amit Shah says there's no lack of confidence in the Prime Minister, attacks the opposition.
The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The bill is passed.
Parliament passes the Digital Data Protection Bill amidst protests from opposition through a voice vote. The union government gets immunity from legal action and has the powers to exempt any entities from provisions. Editors Guild had claimed the bill will have a chilling impact on the freedom of the press. Entities linked to Axis Bank sign a deal with Max Life to acquire a residual 7% stake. With this, Axis Bank's direct and indirect shareholding in Max Life crosses 19%. Adani Enterprises is considering the sale of its 44% stake in Adani Wilmar. That's as per a Bloomberg report. The Adani family could retain a minority stake. Adani Wilmar shares decline in trade. India's top auditor reveals irregularities in the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. The Controller and Auditor General's audit shows 7.5 lakh beneficiaries of the health insurance scheme were linked to a single mobile number. In a bid to cool prices, the government sells more rice and wheat in the open market. The price of rice has also been cut by 2 rupees a kilo. ICICI Lombard gets a show-cause notice from the GST authorities claiming a tax demand of 273 crore rupees. HDFC Life and ICICI Prudential Life Insurance have already received notices, with the tax demand totaling nearly 15,000 crores. SoftBank-backed WeWork hints at bankruptcy after posting a loss of $700 million in the first 6 months of 2023, says substantial doubt exists about its ability to stay in business. But WeWork's India CEO tells CNBC TV18 any global developments have no impact on the India business. The much-awaited Cricket World Cup clash between India and Pakistan has been rescheduled to the 14th of October. 9 other World Cup matches have also been rescheduled. And on the show, Oppenheimer, Barbie and Karan Johar's latest directorial movies see a significant rise in occupancy rates at multiplexes. PVR Inox CEO says big screens are back in vogue. Well, as always, let's start with the day's trading action. We saw a dramatic recovery in the last hour, taking the Nifty and the Sensex to 0.25% higher. The Nifty, in fact, reclaimed 19,600. Let's go across to the wall. 61 points higher on the Nifty. The big movers today, M&M, Reliance and ITC, helping the markets move higher, and they really batted for the bulls. Mid-caps also rising in line with the blue chips, but financials bucked the trend. The Bank Nifty ending in the red today, down by about 84 points. ICICI Bank down almost 1% today. And staying with the markets, SIPs and mutual funds have touched a record high of over 15,000 crore rupees. That's the number for the month of July. Total assets under management also rose to over 46 lakh crores. Nearly 50% of inflows in equity schemes came in from new fund offers alone. Liquid funds have witnessed an inflow of over 50,000 crore rupees. However, large cap funds have seen outflows, and they've seen outflows for the third consecutive month. So that's the latest as far as mutual fund data is concerned. Well, the 3-day meeting of the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee will conclude tomorrow, and a CNBC TV18 poll shows that 100% of market participants expect a status quo. CNBC TV18 Citizen MPC also expects the Reserve Bank to hold fire for now. So when can we expect rate cuts? Here's the Citizens MPC with its verdict.
What should the MPC do to rates? Sajid?
On hold.
On hold. Saumyo?
Pause.
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 Sonan?
Pause.
Dr. Sen?
Pause.
Okay, so it is going to be pause. I think that's not a surprise. Let's see if stance will change at all. Sajid, the stance is, a removal of accommodation. Does that change?
Retain the stance. Withdrawal of accommodation.
Withdrawal of accommodation, sorry.
Stance
Withdrawal.
will remain unchanged.
Okay. Stance?
Yeah, retaining the stance.
Retain withdrawal of accommodation.
Retain.
Okay, retain stance. Dr. Sen?
Neutral with a hawkish bias.
Okay, all right. So there is a 4:1 over there. But I think now, since there is so much uncertainty, I want a very quick third question. When do you expect the first cut?
Too much uncertainty, but I would say early 24 at the earliest.
Okay. Saumyo?
There is a lot of uncertainty on the ground, but not this fiscal year.
Not this. So April 24. Samiran?
Same with us, first quarter FY25.
April 24.
We have it in Feb 24.
Feb 24, a little earlier than that. Probably Sajid is hinting at that. Dr. Sen, when do you think, sir?
I think we are unanimous.
Well, that's the verdict of the CNBC TV18 Citizens MPC. Rate cuts only early next year. Status quo expected when the MPC concludes its meeting tomorrow. Remember to stay tuned to CNBC TV18. We'll bring you all the action live right here. Now, China's economy fell into deflation as both consumer and producer prices have declined for the first time since early 2021. The country's CPI declined 0.3% year-on-year, while its producers' price index fell by over 4% from a year ago. China's central bank has said it expects consumer prices to pick up after a dip in the month of July. And speaking of China, the US government is set to curb investments by private equity and venture capital players into some Chinese companies. President Biden is set to sign an executive order in an attempt to slow down China's development of next-generation technologies that could have military applications. Chinese companies involved in advanced semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing are likely to be impacted by this move. So this is going to be signed by President Biden. Back home, Adani Enterprises is considering the sale of its 44% stake in Adani Wilmar. That's as per a Bloomberg report. Now, the company looks to free up capital for its core businesses of Adani Enterprises. The Adani family could retain a minority stake in the company. Shares of Adani Wilmar down nearly 5% following this news. Of course, the company coming out and saying that it will not comment on speculation. Entities linked to Axis Bank have entered into an agreement with Max Life Insurance to acquire residual 7% stake. With this, Axis Bank's direct and indirect holding in Max Life will rise to about 19%. Axis Bank will pay just over 113 rupees for every share of Max Life Insurance. This is much higher than the 32 rupees per share paid by Axis Bank when it acquired the initial 13% stake. The insurance regulator had penalized Axis Bank and Max Life for violating rules and had asked both companies to strike a deal at fair market value. Larsen & Toubro is looking to invest around $12 billion over the next 5 years. A third of this amount will be dedicated to expanding its clean energy businesses. That's as per a Bloomberg report. Now, the engineering major intends to build 2 to 3 million tons of green hydrogen and ammonia capacity with the money. The company's CEO, S.N. Subramanian, said that they've been scouting for land in some coastal states and they're looking to acquire between 500 to 1,000 acres of land for their hydrogen facilities. And speaking of L&T, Chairman A.M. Naik has passed on the baton to S.N. Subramaniam. Naik joined L&T way back in 1965 as a junior engineer and went on to become the group's chairman in 2017. Speaking at the annual general meeting, Naik said he's happy to leave L&T in very capable hands, applauding his legacy. S.N. Subramaniam said even when A.M. Naik will move out of L&T, L&T will never move out of A.M. Naik. Top global companies Apple, HP and Dell have sought another 9 to 12-month deferment on the deadline for the mandatory licenses to kick in for laptop imports. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that manufacturers have expressed uncertainty about the licensing process for these restricted items. They've also said that they require more time to set up manufacturing units under the Make in India scheme. So that is the latest. Remember, the government has already pushed the deadline to November, but now industry is asking for another 9 to 12 months.
90 to 95% of the global demand is from 7 companies, which is Dell, HP, Apple, Acer, HPE, and Asus, and Lenovo, right? So if we are aspiring to be a global destination, these companies have to be most comfortable. And as the government's motto is, no red tape, but red carpet, that has to be done.
Well, global companies seeking a deferment of those import curbs on laptops. Z Entertainment saw a 70% drop in its first quarter earnings on the back of a one-time loss of 70 crores. Revenue grew over 7% compared to Q1 of last fiscal, margins down over 7%. Former SpiceJet promoter Kalanidhi Maran has accused the airline and its chairman Ajay Singh of willfully defaulting on payments. Now, Maran has filed a fresh petition in the Delhi High Court seeking 50% of SpiceJet's daily revenue to be paid on a weekly basis. The Delhi High Court has asked Singh to appear in person for the next hearing, which is slated for the 24th of August. The big national story tonight, day 2 of the no-confidence motion debate, stood witness to fiery exchanges. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi criticizing the government, alleging that the BJP has, and I quote, set the entire country on fire from Manipur to Nuh in Haryana, end of quote. Lawmakers from the India Alliance also hitting out at the government for their handling of the Manipur issue. Home Minister Amit Shah said the no-confidence motion brought by the opposition does not reflect the people's choice. He said while the incident in Manipur was shameful, indulging in politics over it was even more so.
मैं विपक्ष की इस बात से सहमत हूं कि वहां पर हिंसा का तांडव हुआ है और इस हिंसा के तांडव से कोई सहमत नहीं हो सकता मान्यवर, हम भी सहमत नहीं हैं, उनसे ज्यादा दुख हमें है मान्यवर, परंतु ये परिस्थिति जन्य है। मैं बताना चाहता हूं इसी घटनाओं का कोई समर्थन नहीं कर सकता। समाज के नाते हमें शर्म आई इस प्रकार की घटनाएं वहां हुई है, इससे कोई इनकार नहीं, परंतु ये जो घटना हुई है वो शर्मनाक है। उस घटना पर राजनीति करना इससे भी ज्यादा शर्मनाक है।
भारत हमारी जनता की आवाज है, दिल की आवाज है। उस आवाज की हत्या आपने मणिपुर में की। इसका मतलब भारत माता की हत्या आपने मणिपुर में की। आपने मणिपुर के लोगों को मारकर भारत की हत्या की है। आप देशद्रोही हो, आप देशभक्त नहीं हो।
You are not India, for India is not corrupt. India believes in merit and not dynasty. And today of all the days, people like you need to remember what was told to the British: quit India, corruption quit India, dynasty quit India. Merit now finds place in India.
Anybody who has read the Mahabharata properly knows that it is not the perpetrators of the crime who were punished, but the silent spectators who stood there like trees watching her being humiliated were also punished. They will be punished like they will be punished when they were silent in Hathras, Kathua, Unnao, Bilkis Banu, and when the wrestlers were protesting.
The debate on the no-confidence motion in Parliament. The Parliament has also passed the Digital Data Protection Bill amidst protests from opposition through a voice vote. Now, the bill gives the union government immunity from legal action and powers to exempt any entities from the provisions. The bill will be sent for the President's approval. Ashmi joins us now with the contours of the bill. It went through Lok Sabha today, been cleared by the Rajya Sabha, Ashmit, and this despite the fact that many have raised concerns about some specific clauses of the Data Protection and Privacy Bill.
Well, 6 years after the top court declared privacy to be a fundamental right, we're one step closer to a data protection framework. The DPDP, or the Data Protection Bill, has been ratified by both houses of the Parliament, has crossed the penultimate step, and therefore one step closer. In terms of what it entails, well, there are detailed obligations that are there for companies collecting data, which is to seek consent, which is to inform users in case of a breach. There are detailed rights and responsibilities of data users themselves. There are relaxations that have been introduced for transfer of data from one country to the other. The government will be giving a negative list of countries where data cannot be transferred. Everything else is kosher. There are relaxations in terms of age gating, relaxations for startups. There is also room for exemptions to the government. Now, while many of these aspects have been welcomed, there will also be a data protection board. While many of these aspects have been welcomed, there are also some concerns that have been raised. Concerns such as dilution of the RTI Act, dilution of the IT Act, whereby the clause that allowed for users to claim compensation has been removed. There are also those who have raised concerns about how the centre has given itself the power to block access to entire platforms. And then on the federal front, there are those who raise questions that there is no room provided for the states to be involved, to be a part of the rule-making process. And all of these issues, these anomalies, these rights activists point out, could lead to a constitutional challenge before the top court of the country. But that, of course, will only happen once the bill turns into an act. For that to happen, the president will now have to grant the assent. And once that happens, once the bill is notified, it then becomes effective as an act.
Ashwit, many thanks for joining us. Well, India now does have a data protection and privacy law. India's top auditor has flagged lapses in the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana scheme. The Controller and Auditor General has informed Parliament that nearly 7.5 lakh beneficiaries of the government's health insurance scheme were linked to a single mobile number in the database. Sapna joins us now with the details. Sapna, take us through the CAG's findings.
Absolutely, and the report of the CAG is absolutely scathing as far as the implementation of the Ayushman Bharat is concerned. So the CAG notes in its observations that the scheme indeed is good, the intent is absolutely positive, absolutely required for the poorest of the poor, but just look at the implementation. This is one big statistic that you have pointed out. A series of errors noticed in the original database, and hence the online registration verification is just not possible. So at the moment, 10.74 crore beneficiaries are being targeted, out of which close to 8 crore already registered for Ayushman Bharat. But the question now arises that there will be so many duplications within this, so many of the names that are being used are invalid, the entry of DOBs is invalid, multiple IDs are being used, multiple Ayushman Bharat IDs are being used, and worst of all, they are being used in hospitals or by beneficiaries who are not entitled to use them. So that's where the catch arises. Now, the CAG has also, made observations as to how the database can be cleaned up, but those are more long-term in nature. I think the various departments of the government can pull out a leaf from the way the NFSA database had been cleaned up, because now there's also an intent to expand the Ayushman Bharat universe to around 12 crore beneficiaries, and that will be based on the National Food Security Act database. So, some time back, even during the COVID time, the NFSA database had been cleaned up, the Manrega database has been cleaned up, Aadhaar database has lots of checks and balances time and again. PM Kisan database has been cleaned up. So I think a serious spotlight needs to be put as to cleaning up the Ayushman Bharat database. That's one. State governments do not have enough IT systems to implement the verification. That needs to be put in place. So there are multiple problems, Shireen. It's across the board. It's not just about, one mobile number carrying 7.5 lakh beneficiaries, but that shows the extent of the issue. So I think the database is completely faulty. There is no verification happening. Systems are not in place. Cards are being used in places where they are not supposed to be used. Beneficiaries are wrong. Their invalid names are there, and there is no cross-checking worth its name. So I think a long haul is demanded in terms of cleaning it up. And as I've just mentioned, there are enough examples for the government to do that, but that may take some time to unfold.
Sapna, many thanks for joining us and taking us through what the CAG has said. On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. ICICI Lombard has received a GST show cause notice from GST authorities claiming a tax demand of 273 crore rupees. Sources have said that investigations are ongoing against many more insurance companies and intermediaries. HDFC Life and ICICI Prudential Life Insurance have already received notices with tax demands totaling nearly 15,000 crore rupees. Now, the government will offload an additional 50 lakh tonnes of wheat and 25 lakh tonnes of rice under the open market sales scheme. This move comes after a sharp increase being seen in food prices. While addressing a press conference, the Food Secretary said the reserve price for rice has been reduced from 31 rupees per kilogram to 29 rupees per kg. In what could be relief for several pharma companies, sources tell CNBC Awaaz that the government is considering an amnesty scheme to settle cases of drug overpricing. So the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, that's the NPPA, had filed 2,200 cases totaling about 13,000 crore rupees, including interest and penalty. The government is expected to recover about 5,000 to 6,000 crore rupees from this amnesty scheme. And there could be relief for home buyers of stalled realty projects in Noida and Greater Noida. The UP Cabinet is likely to approve a special package which will waive penalty and interest on developers who defaulted on land dues. This proposal was recommended by a committee chaired by Amitabh Kant. The panel also recommended that there be a removal of the ban on registration of properties of these projects. Well, we are going to head into a break, but coming up next on India Business Hour, big screens are back in vogue, says the CEO of PVR Inox. That and more when we return. And you can also catch all of CNBC TV18's news and updates on Facebook, on Twitter, on Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. You're still watching India Business Hour. It's time now for us to wrap up all the headlines making news in the startup space. Arundhati is standing by with our startup snapshot. Arundhati.
Thank you so much for that, Shireen. Here's all the action from the startup world. Let's start with all the earnings action. Online pharmacy Tata 1mg has a 160% year-on-year jump in its operating revenue in FY23 to a little over 1,600 crore rupees. However, the company's net losses more than doubled to 1,255 crore rupees in FY23, according to TOFLA. Now, a significant chunk of the firm's losses can be attributed to a one-time expense to the tune of 668 crore rupees. Meanwhile, PB Fintech, the parent of insurance platform Policy Bazaar and Paisa Bazaar, posted an operating profit and a significantly smaller net loss for the fiscal first quarter. Net loss for the quarter ended June shrank to 11.9 crore rupees from 204 crore rupees a year earlier. This even as operating revenue rose 32%. That's not all. Swiggy, Lenskart, FirstCry and Off Business, all part of SoftBank's portfolio, are in various stages of preparing for their initial public offering. According to reports, 93% of SoftBank's portfolio boasts of a positive cash runway of over 12 months. Remember, SoftBank India's portfolio, Zomato, Paytm, Delivery and PB Fintech cumulatively contributed gains of $400 million to the kitty of SoftBank Vision Fund 1. However, on the flip side, SoftBank-backed WeWork hints at bankruptcy after posting a loss of $700 million in the first 6 months of 2023. The startup said that substantial doubt exists about its ability to stay in business. WeWork's India CEO, however, told CNBC TV18 that any development globally has no impact on the India business. Kareena Kapoor Khan has now joined a long list of celebrities who are betting big on Indian startups. The actor has announced a partnership with fresh fruit and vegetable brand Pluck. Kareena not only comes on as the startup's brand ambassador, but has also picked up stake in the company. The firm hopes to expand its presence in the coming quarters. Take a look.
Pluck is so conscious of sustainability, the fact that they know exactly what they're doing. And also, you know, if I may say, in today's time, we're all working women. Each unit, I think practically, you know, the mother, the father, the husband, the wife, everybody's working. Children are in school. Today, you want to have, you know, when you're even on the go, to have that app, a trustworthy app that you know, this is going to be home, it's going to be fresh, it's going to be clean, it's, you know, eco-friendly, they're conscious, it's a company that's conscious about it.
Well, the latest celebrity investment there, Kareena Kapoor Khan investing in Pluck, and those are the startup headlines tonight. Now, the second quarter of FY24 has been a happy start for the movie exhibition business. After years of poor footfall and far from inspiring collection, cinema halls are toasting the roaring success of blockbuster hits Barbie, Oppenheimer and Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani. Shilpa Ranipeta reports that cinema halls like PVR Inox are hoping this signals a shift in movie consumption.
Barbie, Oppenheimer and Rocky and Rani Ki Prem Kahani have hit the silver screens back to back and managed to draw Indian cinema goers back to halls and away from their OTT screens. It's a moment the cinema exhibition business has been craving for a few years now. PVR Inox wants to keep the scales tilted in this fashion by wooing customers, from launching trailer shows to slashing F&B prices.
There are also a set of consumers still on the fringe, just kind of making up their mind whether or not they should go to the cinemas. And that's when this campaign, we believe, will work brilliantly well, because what we are seeing is that they need a little push. We want to remind people that how they used to consume movies, which was right there, the kind of excitement they would have getting to the cinema. And that's exactly what we are playing up. The majority of the consumers have already started to come to the cinema. We believe there are still some which need that little nudging.
July's box office numbers are the reason PVR Inox is confident only a little nudge is needed. While Q1 saw an occupancy of just 22.3%, Oppenheimer and Barbie opened strong with 68% occupancy on the opening weekend. Oppenheimer is on track to clock 100 crore rupees in collections and Barbie 40 crore rupees. Rocky and Rani Ki Prem Kahani has also opened to 75% occupancy and comes as a relief after a slew of poor offerings from Bollywood.
PVR and Inox put together contributed close to about 60% of the total collection of Oppenheimer and Barbie, and which was very encouraging. Yes, it was absolutely right when we said that some of the Hindi films were not doing well, but we were so sure that it was just in some time that they would get their act together. Rocky and Rani is the first of the many that we will see.
PVR Inox is confident consumer habits are changing and that the big screen is back in vogue. It points out that even recent smaller movies like Zara Hatke Zara Bachke and Satya Prem Ki Katha also saw success at the box office. But content will determine if this continues.
The whole balance is now 50-50. 50% is on the experience, the product offering that we do, and 50% is clearly on the content still, and it will always be. Content is going to be a very important factor that drives people in. And but when played in tandem, I think this is never going out of fashion.
PVR Inox is also banking on a strong pipeline of movies to help. And if the July-September quarter sticks to this tempo, the company hopes it will end FY24 with revenues of at least 7,000 crore rupees. In Mumbai, Shilpa Ranipeta.
Well, cinema halls hoping for better times. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Remember, tomorrow is going to be a crucial day. The MPC will reveal what it intends to do as far as the stance is concerned, and as far as rates are concerned. The status quo is what the CNBC TV18 poll suggests. So stay tuned to us. We will get you all the live coverage. Till then, from all of us here on the team, goodbye. Thanks for watching.